I did it too slow. So I was like, I'll do it slow with you, but it kind of just falls.
Fair.
But anyway, hello, and welcome to The Cup, the Currently Unnamed Podcast, where we put the real in the tea in reality, and you can always come to us first to quench your thirst. I'm Logan Murphy. Say something gay. I had a Coke Zero that I was drinking, and I drank it all. Oh God, that's where you could tell that I've had.
I drank it all.
I drank it all.
I drunken it all.
I drunken it all. So now I've just got a little bit of water. Hydration is obviously of the essence of health. So.
But if you're drinking it out of anything else, what would it be?
A cup mug.
Ooh.
Cup mug. I don't have the lights, so we're just gonna. Ooh. Oh, here. I got you. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Anyway, if you're only listening to the audio podcast, sorry.
You're getting half of the story.
You're getting no visuals. But because I tried that one time, it took like 2 hours to upload a video into Spotify. Because you can do video podcasts on Spotify, but it takes forever at like the length that we do ours, at least. But yeah, you can get your merch at lonagcreations.etsy.com. That link is in the description below. We've got a lot of new stuff, so make sure to check that out. And we do ship domestically and internationally throughout the entire world, so there are no excuses, period.
Well, I'm David Healy, and I don't have a cute intro, but I do have a cute shirt. I decided, since I actually don't have any shirts for any of this cast.
Oh.
It's weird. But honestly, I didn't really feel passionate about anybody in this cast going into it. That's changed.
Now you do.
I do. But I decided to wear a sister of one of the queens. And just because I have this shirt does not mean I like this person better than anybody in the cast, because I certainly don't. But she's great too. It is Jade Jolie.
Oh, yay!
And
George's?
Huh?
Was that the connection you were making?
No, she was on the same season as Roxy.
Oh, I don't know her and Roxy to be all that close.
Well, I meant that related in a way, as in on the same season.
Okay.
But I'm just.
I was going to say Coco Montrese is not on this cast.
Well, you know what they do have in common with Georges, what she has in common with her? They were both playmates at play, but one was Louisville, one was Nashville.
Yeah, that's why I was like, they were both playmates, so I thought that was the connection you were making.
I'm sure they've met each other a lot.
I hope so.
Yep. I am just drinking some water. I'm being very healthy lately. Not that I didn't always drink water on here, but
good. Well, we are back. It is episode 7 of All Stars 9. We're officially halfway through. We're over halfway.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, I really enjoyed this episode.
I did too. And I have a specific reason why I think this challenge was very good compared to some other ones we have.
I'm going to talk very highly about this challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go ahead and say it now. This is the challenge that I would love to do on Drag Race.
Okay.
Like this exact kind of old Hollywood challenge, and we'll talk about it. But I really enjoyed it.
Me too.
Good. Well, we're going to dive into that. And eventually we'll have the whole group together again. It kind of just seems to be duos of whoever is available recently. But yes, before we dive in, make sure to subscribe if you've not already, because we are here almost all the time giving you almost all things drag. We've got All Stars, we've got France, and we've got Mexico. Our Mexico reviews will be out by the time this video comes out, so make sure to go check out our premiere recap for that. And then you can check the description below for where you can find all of our other YouTube channels. It's already out. It's already out. It's already out at the time that we're recording this too.
Mm-hmm.
At least one part of it. But yeah, check the description below for where you can find our YouTube channels, our audio podcast links, and our Patreon link. Go check that out. We have YouTube memberships. Don't do that. Just go to Patreon instead. It's easier. It's easier for everyone involved. So Patreon down below. We appreciate it. And you get early access to all of the Look Over Here episodes for all the franchises that you're currently watching. So, yeah.
And my nudes are in there. Just kidding. I'm kidding. No.
David, you can't queer bait these people.
It's not queer baiting if I'm queer too, right?
I'm still going to call it queer baiting. What you're doing is baiting the queers. Because
they'd like me to bait them.
Yes, they would. Probably. I don't know.
No, I'm kidding. I'm not. No.
Someone else's might be in there. No, I'm kidding. They're not. I promise. David's nudes aren't in there, but his OnlyFans link is.
They are on my Grindr.
I would hope so. I would really hope so. Anyway, All Stars 9, episode 7. We are coming back in. I have to say I wasn't here for the roast last week. I was really upset that I wasn't here for the roast last week because I loved the roast. I thought it was so good. Upon reflection, I don't know that I agree with the top 2 myself. I think from what I remember of my conversations with you and Lana, David, I think I now agree with you both in that I would have had Angeria Georges.
That's who we had.
Yeah. I would have had Angeria Georges, and then I actually think my third probably would have been Roxy. Okay. I really liked Roxy's.
Yeah, I think she was number 4
for me. Plastique would have been 4 for me, just because I feel like she did very well, but her patterning was very similar, and she had a lot of the same jokes, so there wasn't a whole lot of diversity in the setups of her jokes or anything like that. And I just like a little bit more of a dynamic system when it comes to that. But
I like when they don't read all the jokes off a card.
Right. She was just but her Scientology joke was the best joke I think I've ever heard at a roast, period, on Drag Race.
It's up there.
It's definitely up there for sure. But we come off of Angeria winning her second lip sync. This one, it's second lip sync. Against Plastique, who once again didn't know the words.
I don't know.
She didn't know the words, David.
No, we don't know that she didn't know the words. She did not perform the words. I defended it then. I will defend it now. A lot of drag queens, when they are wanting to really engulf the illusion of being a woman, they don't want to sing the male part. Let somebody else do that. So I thought it was kind of funny that she pointed at Angeria and let the man sing it now. She probably also didn't know the words, but it was a choice.
She probably didn't know the words.
That a lot of queens would make.
I understand that for sure if it's shorter parts. This was a whole verse. So I was just I didn't love that particularly. I think the person really for me that's done that sort of technique the most successfully recently has been Megami.
Megami, yep.
Yeah.
That's what we said last week.
Shout out to Megami again.
Who I talked to on Grindr recently, and she was really nice.
Fuck you.
Yeah, all you have to do is look up the RPDR tag, and I found her. I have it on mine, but yeah, I was I didn't expect an actual Drag Race queen. I was
I absolutely. Then you don't follow her alt Twitter because she's a slut.
Okay,
she's a slut.
It's Boygami is her Grindr name.
Work. I think her alt Twitter is Beefy Boy NYC or something.
Okay.
I like what I see. I'll say that much.
Good.
Yeah. But anyway, we come off of Angeria winning her second lip sync and cutting off Roxy for the second time, which I was not surprised about. And then Roxy comes in and she claims that Angeria is playing a different game.
So when I saw the preview, I was already prepared. All week I've been I'm going to be so mad at Roxy. I'm going to be so mad at her. At least she articulated it in a way that made sense, but I still didn't agree with it. You're talking about her making a big show of it. What did you do the previous week? You made the biggest
That was my
show.
point exactly. That was my point exactly. It's just like, she did acknowledge it at one point. I think it was later in the workroom when they're talking about it. She was like, yeah, I was in my feelings, and like, I made a whole situation up about it, and I chastised you for making a situation about it, but I also did the same thing the week previous. So like, I'm glad that it seems like there's at least a little bit of resolution in that, and I'm glad that, spoiler, Angie didn't cut her off for a third time.
It would have been hilarious if she was not. I don't want to jump the gun.
Been so funny.
Because Roxy says, some foreshadowing, Roxy says that she would have really appreciated it if she just walked straight to her and said, here, you're cut.
Right.
She didn't like that she lollygagged and act like it was a hard decision. And I'm like, well, you don't know that it wasn't a hard decision for her.
And you can tell it definitely was, because she even says in this first part of the episode, like, Gottmik is also someone who cut her off at one point.
Right.
So, like, it would make sense for it to be a more difficult decision between who to cut, probably between the two of them. So, I thought I was going to be super mad at Roxy. I think we're seeing season 5 Roxy again. And I think this challenge also aided that. I'm not mad at seeing little hints of season 5 Roxy.
Yeah.
It's made the season very entertaining, I gotta be honest. For it being a non-elimination season, like, we were all worried going into it that it wasn't going to, provide in the way that that Drag Race typically does. And I think it's living up to expectations. I don't think this is going to go down as the best season of all time. But I think a lot of people are going to look at this season years from now and be like, that was a really good season. Like, I really liked seeing the growth in all 8 of them. And we have a great winner, hopefully, Angeria. Like, that's where I'm at right now. That's where I've been all season. And she is proving me right in being an unabashed and very biased Angeria fan. So
yeah, I agree about Angeria, and I do think Roxy has been the biggest catalyst for any drama this season. So I appreciate her for that, even if I get frustrated with her sometimes. It's just hard for me to ever like fully just love Roxy.
I don't think we're ever gonna fully love Roxy Andrews, the character on Drag Race. I've kind of given up on that. And I will just save my complete and utter adoration for her for when she's just Roxy Andrews, the drag queen, and not the character on Drag Race. Because I really feel very similarly to you. It's like, I love Roxy. I think she's so talented. I think she's one of the best mugs on Drag Race, period. I think she's one of the most talented individuals Drag Race has ever seen. And I still just can never love the character that is Roxy on this show. And I don't know what it is, but yeah. So I feel very, very similarly to you in that.
Maybe All-Star 69 will be like, okay, finally.
All Winners 14.
No.
When she comes back for her 4th time and wins.
She finally wins on her 4th time?
Yes.
On All Winners?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They said, remember when they brought Raven in?
Oh no, I was like,
no, remember
they're countering the BB thing.
No, I was like, remember how they brought in Raven as a gag on All Stars 8, and they were like, or All Stars 7, and I'm like, she's like, I'm competing too. I wouldn't have been mad at that. I don't think anyone. I don't love Raven particularly, but like, it would have felt right to have Raven compete a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there was a time where I was like, oh, they're gonna like retroactively crown her for season 2 after all the drama with Tyra. And I'm glad they haven't, especially I actually rewatched season 2 a couple weeks ago. And Tyra was really good in that season.
Tyra is one of the most talented individuals that has ever been on Drag Race, period. Like, I fundamentally believe if Tyra ever, and she's never going to, but if she ever came back, or I think it's the pronoun. If he ever came back to Drag Race for an All Winners, it would not surprise me if Tyra won at all. I've always been a champion for Tyra. I think she's incredibly talented. I didn't always agree with her character, but I think she's an incredibly talented drag queen.
And she did get lucky with a couple of immunities at the right time.
Such a bad challenge.
Lana would be so mad if she was here right now. Like,
I know. I love Lana. We love you so dearly, and I know you're listening to this. I love you so much. But yeah, the way we're just flowing Drag Race references like nobody's business today. Let's talk about the episode. We come in, RuPaul walks in with some of the pit crew, and we have a mini challenge. I like that we're getting mini challenges on All Stars again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I like the twist of this. I like that we had one where they got a badge. This one, the winner of the mini challenge, gets immunity from being cut off. I think that's a much better prize for that than a full-on beautiful benefacism badge.
Yeah, I just don't appreciate being gaslit by this show into thinking that those were all fruit.
They are.
Those are not all fruit. Those cannot be all fruit.
Fruit. The definition of a fruit is that it has seeds.
So vegetables are fruit?
No, people refer to them as vegetables because they're typically used in a savory fashion. Whereas what we typically consider to be fruits are eaten in a more sweet connotation.
Look, I'm getting gaslit all over now from the show, from Logan.
No, I'm genuinely telling you that, like, I looked this up once. I remember this. I'm not that high, David, I promise.
For me, it felt like RuPaul was like, oh, and yeah, these are all fruit.
Well, no. No. Avocados are fruit.
They were
zucchini are technically fruit.
They're not. There. What's the phallic one? Eggplant.
Eggplant?
Wasn't there an eggplant in there?
Yeah, eggplants are fruits because they have seeds.
Are you kidding me? Look.
Think about it. Think about it. Celery, no seeds. Carrots, no seeds. Lettuce, kale, spinach, no seeds.
I don't know. Is eggplant a fruit? Fruit!
I told
eggplant
you!
Is actually a fruit.
I told you, David!
Look, I'm gonna go. You can do this by yourself. My whole worldview has been shaken, and I'm not ready to podcast anymore. Fine. Please put in the comments if you thought an eggplant was a vegetable.
Oh my God, David. God. Oh my God.
Fruit, are you kidding
me? Anyway, they have to carry various fruits that David just found out were fruits. Only using Between Me Down There. This was so stupid, and I loved this mini challenge so much. I loved it so much.
You know, I feel like I'd never thought RuPaul's Drag Race needs to hire an intimacy coordinator for such delicate scenes that we got between Bruno.
So here's the thing. I may or may not have some insight into why that's the case. I may or may not be subscribed to Bruno's OnlyFans.
Oh, okay.
It tracks. He also doesn't post much of the, typical OnlyFans content, which is very depressing.
I just love Vanjie as a narrator. She's like, if she's not good for anything else this season, her narrating random things like Bruno.
Truly, honestly, and genuinely. Because I've never been the world's biggest fan of Vanjie. I'm finding her so entertaining on this season. Because I think she's so out of her own head that, like, she's still Vanjie, but it feels a bit more real than, like, the, like, fighting with Evie kind of Vanjie that we got in season 11.
Or faux showmance with Brooklyn.
Right. Like, I feel like we're fully finally seeing Vanjie. And I feel that way for a lot of people on this cast as well. But yeah, so we do the Fruity Patootie race. Angeria's really bad. Everyone is getting pummeled Between Me Down There with various fruits.
I think Plastique was at a disadvantage with those pants she had on. Those are
You
like
know,
MC Hammer pants, basically.
that's why you don't wear a full suit into the workroom of Drag Race. That's why you wear what like Nina was wearing, except
White.
don't wear white pants.
Because you'll get
The
eggplant
way
fruit juice all over you.
No, it was avocado.
Avocado fruit juice. What?
Yeah, literally the avocado like smushed, and that was the stain that she got. I would have had that same issue though as a fellow thick thigh girly. Like I absolutely would have had that issue, but also like Nina had the best chances of winning this challenge because having thicker thighs means that you can grip things a little bit stronger.
That's what I thought about Roxy, because I'm like, oh,
Roxy, I mean, the thick and juicy.
These fruit are disappearing inside of her.
David, they're all fruit.
Don't talk about the cast like this.
I'm talking about you like this.
I'm a fruit?
Yeah.
I am a fruit.
What? I'm so surprised. But yes, the thick thighs do it for Miss Nina West. She wins the mini challenge. She wins immunity from being cut off. Except it doesn't matter because she wins the challenge. So she actually gets $2,500 for her charity.
Nothing matters this season when it comes to cutting or immunity.
Nope.
Eventually,
really Maybe. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe someone who is cut off will win a challenge at some point this season. Because we still haven't had that scenario happen. We only had it, I think, once on All-Star 7.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it was only Trinity on Snatch Game.
Yep, that's it.
So, anyway, we find out that the Maxi Challenge is performing and overacting in meeting in the ladies' room, where each queen has a handwritten script for this original film, and like all of their stuff is already pre-assigned. It's written for them. And that's why I loved this challenge so much.
Same.
Was because it was handwritten for these queens. This is one of the real benefits of having a non-elimination All-Stars season, is that things can be a little bit more tailored to the queens themselves. And the writers can write something that's not generic, because that's when they don't do well, is when things are generic. And they can write specific lines for each queen based on, what they've said and who they are.
Yeah, even if it wasn't an elimination format, you could still do that with this cast, because like with this type of challenge,
it would be a tighter deadline, and you would have to add like 2 extra people probably.
Yeah, I mean,
you'd have to, if you're going to do it at like top 8, you'd probably have to like do all of like the top 10 or something like that to make sure that you had enough.
That's fair. My point though is that none of their roles were contingent on anybody else still being around. It was pretty self-sustained stories.
And I loved that.
It just did get a little repetitive is the only thing.
I see where it can get repetitive. We also talked about this before we started recording. I have seen most of the programming that they referenced in this episode. And David, you said you had only seen Showgirls.
Yep, that's it.
Which I thought was really surprising, because I came into this, for people that don't know, David is the movie buff of this podcast. And so coming in, I was like, I'm so excited because I'm such a big fan of old Hollywood movies. That I was like, oh, I'm so excited to talk about this with David, because David's going to know everything about these movies. No.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of other ones. Like, if they had done other ones, I would have, like, if they did Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, but they've already done that.
They've already done it.
If they did Sunset Boulevard.
I would have loved. Some of these were a bit more obscure. So I kind of wish they would have done something like Sunset Boulevard. I don't know what scene from Sunset Boulevard though. Do you do? Do you do the ending?
I mean, yeah, you could. That would be a trippy one, but yeah.
Well, yeah, but I feel like RuPaul would very easily step into the role for that. Which I also have to say,
Straight Jacket.
Right. Yeah. Because I was going to say, the only one on this list that I hadn't seen was The Mirror Cracked, which is what got Mick hat. But I'd seen all the other ones. I've only seen The Boys in the Band once, but like I know it.
See, and
I've
I
only seen
thought
Valley of the Dolls once, but
I didn't
like,
know
I
it was originally something other than the show and then the Netflix movie.
Which one? The Boys in the Band?
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I didn't know it was
It's
based on
originally in old
something
Hollywood.
older.
Yeah. Based on what we saw, though, David, which one would you watch? The Girls, probably.
I don't know. That's tough. I think on paper, Mommy Dearest would give you a lot of room to work with, especially the characterization that you have there.
But not the scene that they gave Chanel. We'll talk about it. Not the scene that it would have been. I would have needed it to be any other scene from Mommy Dearest. But I agree with you.
Yep. How about you?
I think I would have liked to do Dynasty. I think that's the one that like the audience would understand the most. And like you can really lean into that like posh older woman in the 80s, like that kind of energy. Either that or honestly, I really liked Plastique's part for All About Eve.
Mm-hmm.
Just the way that it was very like nonchalant and like very the comedy there was very dry, and I don't know whether that was specifically written with Plastique in mind. I tend to think it is because she does have a drier sense of humor. But I think what she had for the All About Eve part was really cool too.
Yeah. You know what I just realized? I was like, oh, they probably wouldn't do Whatever Happened to Baby Jane because they already did that in a previous All-Star. Mm-hmm. They did Showgirls in that same episode.
They did, yeah.
So they could have.
Well, they've already done Mommy Dearest because they did it as part of the Joan Rusical. Oh, so no more
just last year.
No more wire hangers. That's the only part of All Stars 8 I remember, if I'm being honest with you. But I thought all of these were, and we'll talk about the overall quality, but I thought overall this is a really fun challenge. This is the challenge that I would love to do on Drag Race. Like, I think that would just be so fun. Because I have such a reverence for old Hollywood and like the melodrama of it all.
Yeah, I was just worried that they were going to add fart sounds. I'm like, no, we don't need that again.
No, I was happy they didn't. We also see that they are co-starring alongside RuPaul. Mm-hmm. That's huge.
It is. Like, it's usually pretty iconic when RuPaul is in these acting scenes with the queens. So
it's only when he actually gives a fuck about the people of the show.
Yep.
Pretty much. Like, when was the last time we saw Ru acting in a scene like this?
I mean, kind of not as in depth, but we did in All-Star 7 have with Jersey Justice. We had Ru outside of the courtroom interviewing, which gave us one of the most iconic moments when Jinx's ear falls off.
Jesus Christ! Can you speak up a little louder? I lost it here.
I freaking love Jinx.
I love Jinx so much. I guess that before that, the only thing that's coming to mind is when they did the scenes on the finale of season 6, where they did that like acting skit situation in the Final 4 episode. Or like, I guess, because he makes an appearance in the challenge on season 8 for Empire.
Yeah, Empire one.
Ruko's Empire. Which produced one of my favorite lines of all time.
That one?
Oh, that one. Yes, that's one of them. Why'd I waste my time putting on this? Oh, wait, there's one. This. No, the other one is, I'm a strong, gay woman!
Lana is somewhere rolling over in her bed right now. no, stop the old references. This is going to be way longer than it should be because
100%.
we were
this is
left
so much
alone.
longer. But hey, we're getting all of our Drag Race references out now,
Yeah.
so that way we do it less than the other episodes where she's here. I think it's also been a minute since you and I podcasted together, so I feel like we're like, no, we should. There's more banter than normal.
Yes,
probably.
Exactly.
But yeah, we go basically straight into the preparation for the scenes. I loved how collaborative it was with RuPaul. Like I was very pleasantly surprised by Ru in this whole episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was definitely lighthearted. There were times where you could see like maybe slight annoyance, but most of the time, like the queens would make her break at some point and she would just crack up. The funniest part to me of the whole like part that we saw, and they kept them pretty brief, but when Angeria had to start over and she walked around and
all the way around the set.
She's like, you could go through the door. And she's like, no, I'm doing it the right way.
I want to do it the right way. Her and Gottmik were just all over the place. You can tell that Gottmik has had probably a bit more one-on-one experience with RuPaul than a lot of these other girls probably have. Because I know she did a lot of the press when season 13 was happening. It was mostly her and Simone. Which is a wild difference from who's doing a lot of the press right now for season 16. But both people that are making me very happy. Because it's mostly right now Megami and Mirage.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, those are my two favorite people from the season. I'm excited. But yeah, I love the whole time with Gottmik was really good. Georges and this wig that she pulled out of the stand box. I lived.
Yeah, I was obsessed with it. I was like, I cannot stop looking at this wig, even though it was like putting shadows on her face a little bit. But
it was horrible, and she needed to tease up the front a little bit again. But like, oh my god, I think I'm gonna say something. I think I'm finally fully coming around to Georges. I think I'm there. Like, I find her really entertaining now.
Okay.
And I'm like, I'm glad I'm having that shift with her. Because she's very talented, obviously. But I love that you can feel her getting more confident by the episode.
Yep.
I really like that. I really like that.
And she took notes well. She definitely was not delivering the line at the speed that she should have, but RuPaul gave her advice. I don't think she slowed it down quite as much.
Where she should have won this challenge, but like last week, sure. This one, not really. But
yeah, we'll get into it. We
will. In the workroom stuff, as they're getting ready for the runway, there's not a whole lot of conversation. It's mostly the Angie and Roxy sort of squashing the beef situation. Yeah. There's more. Oh, we forgot to talk about Plastique's math.
Oh, yes.
We have to talk about Plastique's math. I love this.
And I kind of used that same math last week.
I kind of feel like it worked.
Maybe.
Like, I think it worked because
Although they did not, the winner of the challenge did not follow that math, because if she had, it could have come back to bite Plastique.
Right. Well, we'll talk about the decision that was made, because I think there's a lot of factors that play into the decision that was made. But Plastique's math, I love this, where she's like, instead of blocking the person with the most badges, you want to block the people that have the same number of badges as you. So that way you're putting yourself at more of an advantage, because then you have an extra opportunity to earn a beautiful but effective badge. And they don't. I think it's a really smart strategy, honestly.
It is, but it's easier to do on All-Star 7 when there's going to be a top 4. And we know it's a top 3. They've said it in this episode. So it's really, really, really hard. You can't just let a couple of people just keep propelling themselves, because if you let 2 people slide by, then there's only one spot. So it's really it's a very like tightrope to walk on this season, because so few people are going to get to the finale.
Yeah, I think we're seeing, and I really like this part of like the RuPaul social strategy race that we're seeing. Like this part of All Stars, I'm really entertained by, because I like seeing the queens kind of going through their options and kind of figuring out what they would do, and most of that not mattering because 3 of the 7 times someone has been cut off has been the same person, and then 2 of the other 4 times where they weren't the person cutting off, they got cut off.
Right.
So it's like if there was more variety in who is winning lip syncs, which I think is probably the intention that they have, I think there would be more, like I think we would see more of this at play. But I like the level that we're at with it. So
I agree. I do want to talk about something else that I think we kind of skipped over because I think it was a little bit earlier in the episode. But we did have Gottmik.
Oh, the Gottmik moment, yes.
Yeah. She came to the realization that she had really like put up a cold front. And we talked about it when we talked about the Untucked. But she came to the realization that it was really about her not wanting to cry in front of anybody. And she feels like as a trans man, she's been kind of led to become the most masked type of man she can be, because that's her idea of what a trans man should be. And that also involves the toxic masculinity of boys don't cry. She's got it tattooed on her. But really, that's what kind of made her just shut down completely. And we did end up talking about it and how it didn't look great. But Lana and I both decided we're going to give her empathy in this situation because I think the world could use some more empathy. I am curious what you thought of that since you weren't here to talk about it last week.
I think it's obviously a difficult kind of situation. I don't love that it happened. And I don't love that she did what she did in the roast. But I do feel bad for her in a lot of what we were presented with, because you could tell that something in her energy shifted and just like being very close to winning some challenges and having a bit of a rough patch in the middle of the competition so far. Like, I get it, not getting the reaction that you would have wanted on a challenge that you really thought you had a good shot at winning, which she did. I mean, we saw her season 13 roast, and it was very, very good. I still think maybe she should have won that roast personally, but I haven't watched it in a minute, so I wouldn't be able to give an accurate answer to that, really. But I felt bad because you could tell she didn't get the reaction she wanted from Ru and the judges, and it really just shut her down completely. And I felt bad for that. But yeah, I'm glad that we got this moment with her in this episode, though.
Me too. I'm glad she got to talk it out. And Vanjie was kind of her biggest champion in that too, which I'm like, this is why I'm glad that you're friends with Vanjie. I was worried early on that Vanjie would be kind of the bad influence on Gottmik, since I said she's very susceptible to bad influences. Like, she just kind of adapts her, and they're not really bad influence. It's just she adapts herself to be like a little lapdog for some people. She has in the past. And I thought that it was going to be like that this season, and it really hasn't. And I'm starting to appreciate their friendship, especially in this episode.
Definitely. Yeah, I love that it was Vanjie and Angie that were there with her, especially with Angie, having been cut off by Gottmik. And then, later things in this episode. But with that being said, should we perhaps maybe talk about other things?
Sure. I'm down.
RuPaul and her Scoochie Woochie dress era. We'll talk more about it on Look Over Here, but she's wearing a dress.
I can see her fruit peeking out.
The same.
Yep.
I can see Michelle's shoulder peeking out. And our guest judge, Colton Haynes, who I knew of as a person.
Yeah.
I knew nothing about him. I was pleasantly surprised by him.
He was in my brain somewhere, and I was like, I know him, but where do I know him? Was he in American Horror Story? And my roommate's like, yeah. Like, he was in the 1984. And he was like, no, that was the other one.
No.
He was in Cult, apparently. But no, the other one that I was thinking of is the skier. the gay skier.
Oh, Gus Kenworthy.
Gus Kenworthy. And then
very similar white gay men. Yes.
Yeah, and my friend was like, my coworker was there, and he was like, "Wait, is this the one that's the skier?" Because I didn't say that part. And they're like, "No. Oh, he's the one that was on The Bachelor?" No, different Colton.
That's Colton Underwood.
Yeah. So
who we don't like.
But this guy's kind of cool, and he's very attractive.
You know, he's a generally attractive white man for sure.
He's a fan of Drag Race, which I appreciate too, because he was cute in Untucked.
Oh my god, Untucked was so good. Untucked was. We need to talk about Untucked, definitely. Yeah. I loved Untucked. I thought it was so fun. But yes, and then Carson's back. Woo!
Wasn't he here last week?
I think so. Yeah. I think they do 2 episode back-to-backs now because we also have Maddie.
Okay, right.
So I think they do 2, 2, 2, 2, 2 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then they'll probably all be here for the last 2 episodes, is what I'm thinking.
Right, fair.
So, yes. Let's talk about our challenge performances first, because that's the order I put them in. So, the first 2 up, we had Nina West, whose parody was Valley of the Dolls, and we had Roxy Andrews, who had Dynasty.
Okay, yeah. So as soon as I saw Nina in the rehearsals, and then I actually saw her thing, I was like, yeah, she's totally winning. This is her week. This is her thing.
This challenge is built for Nina West to win.
Yes, absolutely. And she killed it. She was just the right amount of overdramatic with her acting, especially for the character she was doing here. And she also had like little nuances in her face throughout. She just nailed it. And I just really like the whole setup that they had to, and just the shade that she kept getting. Like, oh, you left hairspray, so you've had to crawl back to RuPaul's Drag Race. It was hilarious.
All of these are direct references to the movies that they're inspired by. So a lot of it is direct lines from that movie then filtered through this person and their drag experience. Mm-hmm. And that's what I loved about this challenge the most, because then you also hear Roxy delivering some really iconic dialogue from Dynasty that I loved. But if you don't know the Dynasty reference, a lot of that, from 1936 to 1947, you worked at the circus. If you don't know those references, it's probably going to be confusing to understand what is happening.
Mm-hmm. That's
but I love the way that they did this challenge, and I would love to see them redo this on a future season.
Yeah, I would be down for sure. And especially the part that is written with them in mind. I want it to be something completely different.
Yes.
I don't need to see this exact setup. But yeah, for Roxy, I did have a little bit of issues with her. And it was really her face. She was delivering it well with how she was saying it, but in the face, I was not seeing it. It was
she was dead in the face, I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she kept, so we kept debating, the people I was watching with, they were not, most of them were not looking at RuPaul when they were delivering their lines. It was like they were looking right past. And one of my coworker, he was like, oh, she's reading cue cards. And I don't think that they were. I think that was there?
Yeah, you could very clear in several shots from most of the girls, you could see that there was, at least on Rue's side, so I'm going to assume there was probably one on the girls' side too, to minimize anyone doing bad in the challenge. You could very clearly see a teleprompter, at least on RuPaul's side. Because what I also noticed is that no one fully flubbed a line. They may have forgotten a word or two, but no one completely flubbed anything.
That's true. I guess I was giving them the benefit of the doubt that they weren't just blatantly reading their lines. But I think in Roxy's case, I think she was mostly just reading the lines. I did not get that impression from Nina at all. She seemed more engaged with RuPaul. Points off for Roxy for that. And I'm going to go ahead and give my rankings as we talk about everybody. So for me, Nina was number 1. for the night for
Same.
me.
Same.
And then Roxy was actually, and I know I sound like a Roxy hater. She did not do poorly. She was my number 8.
Oh, okay. I had a very clear bottom 2. Roxy for me would have been 6th.
Okay.
Because I don't think she did great. My biggest critique as well was that she was saying the lines and she was delivering them in the right way, but her face was not giving any of the emotion that I needed it to.
Right.
Whereas, like you said, Nina was fully in the character, fully invested, and knew what she was there to do. And she absolutely delivered. She was my number 1 of the night as well.
Yep.
In the challenge. We then moved to Angeria, who was doing a parody of Mildred Pierce, and then Plastique doing All About Eve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Angeria, she was so funny in this. And I think I'm going to give a lot of credit to the writer. She had a really good script here. And I don't think everybody had as good of a script for her. But it just, it felt like just the camaraderie that you saw between her and RuPaul, it just feels like they're kin, you know?
Yeah.
Like above anybody else, I would say it just felt like they get each other. So I was absolutely living for everything she was doing. She was just so funny. All of her like subtle deliveries too. Like I think it was Colton who pointed out like how she turned around at one point and stared back at RuPaul after getting slapped or whatever. But yeah, she was killing it. Absolutely one of my favorites. I don't know that I would have had her in the top 2.
Oh, she was my number 2. I'll go ahead and say she was my number 2. I was really, really impressed with what Angeria did here. I will say she had one of the better written scripts for sure. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more, honestly, I would say there's a lot more to work with Angeria in that regard because she has a very outwardly open personality. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot more catchphrases and there's a lot more nuance that she could work with there. I thought Plastique was not bad. I didn't think she was bad by any means, really. I had her at number 3, actually. Because I thought her delivery was good. I thought her overall, the cadence was good. She took direction very well with RuPaul. I thought it was a very strong performance, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. I was worried for a second. I was like, oh, we're about to fight on this because I absolutely loved Plastique in this. I think she had one of the most memorable stories for me. Like she's there trying to take over from what RuPaul's doing, but she just sold it so well. I am just very, very, very impressed with Plastique. I knew I was going to like her coming into the season because she was one of my well, there was a lot of favorites that I had in season 11, mm-hmm. but she was just somebody I was rooting for the whole time, and I wanted her to do better, and she is doing better this season, and I'm so happy for it that she's not just a one-trick pony. She's showing that she's pretty much good at almost everything except Snatch Game, maybe.
Except Snatch Game and memorizing the lyrics to songs she has to lip sync to.
Well, there's still debate on that, but I
in all 3 of the lip syncs she's done, she's dropped words. All 3 of them.
Sometimes it was a choice.
Okay. All 3 of them, she dropped words. That is a fact, David Healy.
But
I love Plastique too. I'm loving Plastique, but that's just a fact.
Yes. For me, I actually had Plastique as my number 2, and I had Angeria as my number 3.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That makes complete sense.
It was close, though.
Yeah. Next up, we have Chanel, who was doing Mommy Dearest, which I'll talk about the scene that she did because I was angry. And then we have Georges doing The Boys in the Band.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I fully get the issues they had with Chanel. I thought she did actually fairly well with this. I thought she just really gave the melodrama. She had one of the best looks of anybody in this, but it just really added to it. Like it felt very old school in the best way. No, I wouldn't have had her as a winner or probably in the top 4, but I do think that she definitely sold things as well as she could. I don't know. She clearly does seem to be having a mental block, which is understandable at this point. But I'll give her credit for it. I thought she did really well. But like I said, nobody did poorly. But for me, I think Georges was the biggest surprise for this, and it was a little mixed. I'm going to say that the first half of
Definitely.
Georges' performance, there were some issues with the acting. Even the delivery wasn't quite where I wanted it to be. But I'm going to be honest, I laughed more at Georges's performance than anybody else, and it was all that slap part. The
It was so
constant
good.
slapping and the I barely felt I barely
Okay, I
even
felt
felt it.
Yeah.
Okay, I felt that. I was cracking up during that whole time. So I'm gonna go ahead and say it now. Georges may be the biggest surprise of the season for me. And I leaned over to my roommate and I'm like, is this the season where I just slowly start to fall in love with Georges? Because I did not want Georges
Yeah.
on this season. I was like, it's too
I didn't
soon
either.
and you're not good enough. You're not good enough. And I kind of had the same thing with Angeria. Because I was not excited about Angeria. I know you love Angeria from the start. I thought she was good, but just good on her season. So I
Fair.
wasn't excited to see her again. But both of them have absolutely won me over.
Love it. Well, I don't know if you've noticed, David, but we've already discussed my top 4 of the challenge.
Okay.
So that means that these gals are not in my top 4.
Wait, no, we haven't. Because you
Yeah.
said Roxy was number 6, right?
Did I say that?
I'm pretty sure. Because you
You're
said there were
right.
2 people worse
Yeah,
than
I
her.
would have said Roxy.
Mm.
No, never mind. I lied several times. Regardless, still not super high for either of these gals. So,
Mm.
I have Georges in my ranking at number 5. I actually have Chanel as my number 8.
Oh.
I am not gonna fully blame Chanel for that. Chanel had by far the worst written script. By
Mm-hmm.
far for me. Like, there was no effort put into that. There was no universe where Chanel was going to win this challenge based on what was written for her.
Yeah, it didn't have a lot of Chanel behind it. It did have like parts
No.
about like, why did you even bring me here? And I'm like, whoa, did they know she wasn't gonna have any wins by now? But there wasn't a
I'm starting to think. I think a lot of it just has to do with the delusion that we saw from her on season 1.
Mhm.
But for me, I just think bad writing mixed with it was a very stiff delivery.
Hmm.
Like she was the one more than anybody else that was fully reading off of that teleprompter she had. I don't think she looked at RuPaul ever. She fully acted to the camera, and that was it. And so, as much as I adore Chanel, I really do. She was my number 8 because I really just was not impressed with what she did at all. I was very impressed with Georges as well.
Okay. Yeah, I had Chanel at number 6.
Okay.
And then I actually had Georges at number 4.
Okay. So our lists are not like super
Right.
far off
No.
at all. I will agree with you though. I was very impressed with Georges. I thought Georges did a good job. This wig is just adding all of the dumb that I need. She's finally moving into the category for me of pretty but stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm finally getting there with Georges. I'm like, thank
Yeah.
goodness, because that's one of my favorite types of queens is just pretty and stupid.
Yep. I'm getting
Um,
personality.
Finally, I'm getting personality. She feels the most. I'm curious if they actually started medicating her for this season because she seems a lot more chill.
Mm-hmm. And please do not forget to discuss her video in Untucked because I definitely want to talk about that.
Yes, absolutely. I loved it. We'll talk about it. But our last 2 up, we have Got Mick, who is doing the Mirror Cracked, which, like I said, is the only one I didn't particularly know out of this list. And then we have Vanjie doing Showgirls. So I'll go ahead and say for me, I had Got Mick at 4th, and I had Vanjie at 7th.
Okay. Well, this might get interesting then.
'Cause-
So for me, I thought Gottmik actually acted it out well. Like,
yes,
but for me, her character was bitchy, and she sold the bitchiness, but it just never had levels.
it
And I
was
think,
she she had the second worst script.
yeah, and it absolutely came down to the script.
Yeah,
I totally agree with that. Like, I think she did as best as she could, but for me, it ended up being one of the least memorable of the night for me. So I was kind of bummed out for that, because I've been rooting for Katmik. She's another one that's really won me over this season.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, for me, it just next.
yeah.
I wish I liked it more.
I did like it more. I think, again, like I said, she had the second worst written script by far, no question. And I think when it comes down to the actual acting, like you said, she did the one level that she was given in the script. She did that one level very well.
Mhm.
I thought the reason I have her so high is because her direct interaction with Rue, and especially in the slapping sequence, I thought was some of the better slapping sequence that we got. She really acted with RuPaul as opposed to acting next to RuPaul.
Right.
And so for me, I saw that connection. And obviously there is a good amount of chemistry between both Gottmik and RuPaul. So for me, it just felt a little bit more like a comfortable scene, despite it very much so being one note. I absolutely agree with that.
Yep. But as far as Vanjie goes, I think if you take her and you make a little pie graph of charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent,
Uh-huh.
that charisma is just eating up everything else. And
Uh-huh.
this is a challenge where charisma can really pay off. And for me, it
Yeah.
actually did. I'm assuming
Oh.
it may not have for you, but I just really like that she infused herself, her own personality into this character as much as she could. She almost made it unrecognizable as Showgirls.
This was not Showgirls. This
Mhm,
was the Vanjie show.
yeah.
Like,
But I love the Vanjie show. Like, she's
yeah.
always been somebody that I'm just so intrigued by. And like, maybe she doesn't kill the challenges, but she kills the TV character part. And this was a
Yeah.
TV character. So I actually quite enjoyed this.
I didn't think it was bad because I agree with you. No one did bad
Right.
here. For me, what it came down to, because I did have Vanjie seventh. For me, what it comes down to is I just didn't believe her delivery.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, this is a challenge where you're supposed to be taking this reference that you're given, infuse it with yourself, but still stay a little true to the reference.
Mhm.
I think Vanjie went a bit too full tilt in that regard. Like you said, it was unrecognizable. And was it entertaining? Absolutely. I also think she still has not learned how to deliver words in a way other than just her Vanjie delivery, which is great because
Did she keep saying scripper? I'm not a scripper.
I think so. And I know she has a very thick accent, and I know that like there's a lot of factors going to play, and she does talk very, very quickly. But when it comes to acting like this, I would have liked to see her really step out of her box and maybe lean more into the character of Nomi than just being Vanjie. Because what we've gotten this season in every challenge is just her being Vanjie. And I don't think there's anything else other than Vanjie for her to play, which is a great thing for being a working drag queen in the real world.
Hey,
But when
work
it
for
comes to the
Candy.
confines of exactly, but when it comes to the confines of Drag Race, she's not meeting those levels in the way that a lot of these other queens are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
And I will say, so I actually had Gottmik at number 7,
okay,
mostly due to the script.
fair.
But then I had Vanjie at number 5.
Okay, interesting.
Yep.
So we're really not that far off.
True, not too far off. They were both in the top 4 though. I was a little surprised they were in the top 4 over Plastique.
I was very surprised. I got to be honest.
And I thought George's
But
was going to be in the top 4 too, based on how they reacted. But
I think they're really trying to distribute the top 4 placements at this
Mhm.
point, and so it felt a little bit like, here you go, Vanjie.
Yeah.
Because even Chanel's had a lot of them over 7 episodes, despite her still not having a beautiful bit fact. This is his own badge.
Yeah, they squeezed in a top 5. Was it last week or the week before?
Last week.
Yeah, they're like, we'll have a top 5.
Chanel is a consummate professional, and she is a great host. We're still not going to give her a beautiful bit of actress.
Yeah, she was. If that was the top 5, she was clearly number 5.
I don't know what this woman needs to do for them to give her a goddamn badge.
Well, I guess we'll find out next week.
I still don't think she's going to get... I really think they're going to Susan Lucci her until the last possible episode.
I think she's getting a badge. I think they set it up this episode.
This
is going to be her breakthrough, because we had the whole thing on the stage where they were like, what was going on in your head? And she just said she's like hitting a wall or whatever. And I feel like they're setting up a storyline for her to finally get a top 2 placement, because I bet all these girls have it in their contract. We have to be in the top 2 at least once. At least once.
Right. I'm like, I would like Chanel to have that. I would like Chanel to have a challenge win that is her own and nobody else's. Yeah.
I also wouldn't mind if they do a season like this again. 6 episodes in, if somebody's just not there.
Or maybe I wouldn't even mind necessarily a scenario where it's 10 queens to start. And you go halfway through, you cut like 3 of them.
Yeah.
After 6 episodes. Like I wouldn't mind that necessarily. I think 8 is good, because they also are probably going to do like a Lipsync Lollapalooza situation at some point, and 8 works better for that than 6 or than 10. So I don't know. But let's move to a very, very quick discussion of the runway. Category is Widow Weep for Me. What a strange phrasing. What a strange phrasing. But
yeah, immediately I thought of Widow Von Do. So,
and then the very first thing they say for Nina is Widow Von Don't.
Right. I was like, hey.
Like, that's rude.
Yeah.
But yes, as always, we're going to do our very quick thoughts here, and we're going to do our full looks over on Look Over Here. So, first up on the runway, Nina West.
Theatrical and strong.
Her best look of the season, arguably. I was very impressed by Nina here. It only added to the fact that she was going to win this episode. So
one sentence. No, I'm kidding.
Well, whatever. Roxanne Andrews. Really great. Like, I don't have any other words other than just really great.
This is what I was waiting for.
Right. We'll talk about it more, but like, yeah. Angeria.
She's so good.
The only one to take the challenge literally, and I loved it. So good. What words can we say about Plastique Tiara at this point? I don't know what to say. So my word is just going to be,
I'll say intricate.
Very. Is this the one that was leaked by the designer a few weeks ago?
I don't know. Let's mess up.
Oh yeah, one of her designers just started posting videos about all of her looks without really knowing what the what was happening in the season.
What an idiot.
I'm pretty sure he's a Vietnamese designer that doesn't really know a whole lot about like the episode structure of Drag Race. So I think this was one of the looks that was revealed.
Oh, that sucks.
Chanel.
Love the transformation.
It's fine.
Oh.
It's fine. It's good.
Good is good.
It's good. It's good. Gorgeous like Georges. Predictable.
You need some volume in that wig.
got Mac.
She keeps killing it.
Yet another name drop.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed that.
Marco.
Like casually, Marco made this. No big deal. I love that they're actually allowing the queens to name drop. I think it's just because Gottmik has so much designer shit that like
they should be crediting the designers on the show like Drag Den does.
100%. And last up, Miss Vanjie. It's you.
Is it? Oh, okay, my bad. She just keeps getting better with runways.
My favorite look of the night.
Mm-hmm.
I love this. I thought it was so good. It was so good. I agree with you, Vanjie just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah,
but
because I was like, I was like, her runways are just not going to be there. But then the past few weeks,
all of a sudden, I think what we're learning is she may not have had the best money management skills when it came to these looks. That's kind of what I'm learning.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about Untucked here?
Sure, let's do it.
Because we get Colton Haynes coming back. He's lovely.
Mm-hmm.
He's a really big fan of the show, and I really enjoyed hearing him talk about the show.
Yeah, I'm sure this was exactly what like any meet and greet or drag con is like, where people just spout out like, "Oh, this is what I know you for, thick and juicy," and he would just do that for the different
thick and
queens.
Juicy. I don't remember what the other ones were that he did, but it was
but I thought it was cute, and then they kept cutting back to whatever like specific reference he was saying from their original seasons.
I thought they were going to do the thick and juicy moment from the All Stars 5 lip sync and not the perfume challenge for Roxy. I was like, oh, we're going back to the perfume challenge because I forgot her perfume was thick and juicy.
Right.
But yes, and then we get the only other thing I had from Untucked was we get two really lovely video messages. The first for Nina and the second for Georges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Nina's parents were so cute, but you could tell that they are not used to this lifestyle or this world, and they were just very reserved. But
the story that Nina told about flying her parents out to LA and all her mom wanted to do was go to In-N-Out. I'm like, honestly, relatable, girl. I'm with you. Like, if I ever move away from a state where I cannot have easy access to In-N-Out, that's always going to be my number one thing.
Fair.
She's like, I just want my double animal style protein stout with no tomato. Thank you.
Yep. And then we get the video from our lovely Jada Essence Hall, and I'm like, wait, who is this for?
The Essence of Hall.
I know. Were you confused too at first? Like, wait.
I was so confused. I literally paused it and I was like, before we heard that it was for Georges, I was like,
is this Heidi's video from last year that she didn't stick around to see?
Literally. I was like, did she do it for like Gottmik? Or like, I was so confused. And then I forgot that they were both in the Vegas show together for like for years.
Mm-hmm.
They've both been in the Vegas show together. I just never would have put the two of them together.
No.
But I love their friendship so much.
Yeah, and I just really like seeing a vulnerable Georges because I don't think we get that a lot. But she just like broke down. Just you could tell this meant so much to her. She was just tearing, like crying, and I was like, "What a little sweet little doll you are, Georges. Why am I liking you so much now?"
I know. I'm like, I'm really coming around to Georges. I'm like, Georges is great.
Yeah,
I like Georges a lot. I was very confused by the Jada Essence Hall of it all. I was like, "Hello, Miss Essence of Hall. Good to see you." But we go back to the main stage. We find out that the top two of the week are Angeria and Nina. I mean, that was my top two of the week. So for once, I agreed. I understand your perspective of having Plastique third because I also had her third.
Right. And for me, I feel like there's been other weeks where Angeria easily could have been in the top. So I was actually very pleased that she was there, because I really want her to be in the finale. So she's got to get some more badges. And I'm like, okay,
Right.
even if you were third by not much, yeah, go ahead and get that badge, girl.
Right.
Plus,
Right.
my person that I had as number 2 wasn't even in the top 4 anyways. So
Literally.
for some reason,
But so we get Angeria and Nina, and I was like, what song are they gonna give them? And I think it was maybe the perfect equalizer song between Angeria and Nina, because they lip sync to Lover Girl by Tina Marie, a callback song.
mm-hmm.
And I love the first lip sync they did to this song. Do you remember this one?
I don't. I mean, I know the song very well,
Okay.
but I can't remember who.
It was Candy Ho and Mrs. Kasha Davis on season 7.
Okay.
This
Season
is the one
7
where,
is like my weakest season of Drag Race.
okay,
to
that
be
makes
honest, I think there are episodes of season 7, especially the last few, that I never watched.
This was the Despies, was
Okay.
the challenge. That's where Mrs. Kasha Davis goes home.
Yep. Because she flubbed one thing.
Even though she did a really, really good lip sync. Yeah, she said, welcome.
Welcome.
And they sent her home. Welcome. And they sent her home. But this is where we have Candy Ho in that beautiful blue gown, just like a lip syncing to Lover Girl. I love the first instance of this lip sync. I really enjoyed this instance as well, but I was so confused by how they chopped this song up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was talking to the people I was with, and I was like, this is really weird for me, because I think this is definitely Nina's best lip sync ever. But I think this is Angeria's weakest lip sync ever, which is not bad. She just has a high bar.
Yes.
But I'm like, why are they kind of even now?
I thought it was a very competitive lip sync.
Uh-huh.
I feel like they might have chopped things up because maybe Nina did better in the lip sync. I think, or maybe Nina did better in the lip sync than what we saw. I thought they both did really, really well. I agree with you completely. I think this is Nina's absolute best lip sync by far. I wouldn't say this is Angeria's overall weakest lip sync on Drag Race.
Yeah.
I didn't love her performance from Radio on season 14. The three-way lip sync.
I thought you were going to say the what was it the Willow and Angeria did?
Oh, Telephone?
Yeah, that one was a little.
No, I think they did the best that they could with Telephone in gowns. Like, I'm not gonna put that. And I still think Angeria won that lip sync personally, but that's just me. I'm obviously thrilled that Willow Pill was saved and won the season because I love Willow.
Mm-hmm.
Those were my 2 favorites going into the finale. So I was like, no. But yeah, I don't think it was a bad Angeria lip sync. I think this is the best lip syncing we have ever seen from Nina West.
The bar was not high.
The bar was very. What was her best lip sync up to this point? Still no scrubs.
Wait, have we only seen her lip sync 3 times?
We've only seen her lip sync to No Scrubs and Banana.
Then yeah, I guess it must have been No Scrubs. That's sad.
Yeah,
that's sad. Meh. I guess meh is better than what are you doing, girl?
Yeah,
with all those
I was so impressed with Nina. As soon as the song came on, I was like, this is such a Nina West coded song. Like, I could actually see both of these girls performing this in a club somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, oh, it's going to be a really even lip sync. And it was. I was really enthralled by this lip sync. I didn't know what Nina was doing all the time, but I was really entertained by what she was doing. Mm-hmm. I thought Angeria gave a very strong, very classic Angeria style lip sync.
Yep.
I still would have given the win to Angeria personally, because I think Nina leaned a little bit too much into this like creepy character thing, in the same way that I see, if you remember Jan's lip sync against Jessica Wilde on All Star 6. Like, I have Jessica winning that and Jan losing for the same reason I have Angie winning and Nina losing here.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because I think the weird, creepy like character that Nina was leaning into was cool, but I think she just leaned a little bit too far into it.
Yeah, I agree. I still need to rewatch this before I make because I think this is one of the closer calls, and I had no idea what they were going to choose. Like, obviously, I like Angeria.
This was one of the better lip syncs this season.
Yeah, I was hoping Angeria would get it just because I'm rooting for her. But yeah, it was really close.
And she did, and I was very excited. Yay.
I just realized my last name is almost in her name. Heels at the end.
Oh, Heelsy.
Yep, Heelsy.
You're David Van Michaels Z. Anyway. This is also where we find out, like we talked about earlier, that because Nina didn't need to use her immunity from being cut off because she was in the top 2, she then receives $2,500 for Trevor Project, and that was kind of her big confessional moment throughout the episode, was just talking about how she hadn't raised any money yet for Trevor Project. Thrilled she has money now for Trevor Project. So, and Angeria has $30,000 for the National Black Justice Coalition, which makes me very happy. But then we go to Angie cutting someone off for the 3rd time.
So we paused it. Oh,
yeah.
I was going to say we paused it, and I was like, it would be so funny if she just immediately marches up to Roxy and is like, "You're cut," because that's what Roxy asked for earlier in the episode.
I thought it would have been so shady,
and she did it, but she was joking.
She was joking. I had a feeling she wasn't going to do Roxy. I felt like it wasn't the right choice at that time for her. She had already cut off Roxy. I don't see Angie being the kind of person to cut off the same person twice in a row. So for me, I was like, okay, I feel like it comes down to Plastique, who is obviously the other person with the most badges. And so that would have fit into the Plastique math that we got in this episode. Because now Angie has 3 badges. Plastique has 3 badges. So there we go. Or I was like, the only other person to cut her off is Gottmik.
Well, and Vanjie.
Yes, but she didn't blame Vanjie for that one.
Yeah, which
and I honestly wouldn't have either if I'm in Angie's position. I also think if you're looking objectively speaking between Gottmik and Vanjie, based on what the end game challenges probably would be, I feel like Gottmik has a better shot at winning more of those challenges than Vanjie would.
Yeah, I agree.
So the decision that she ultimately makes to cut off Gottmik, I think, was a very smart decision. And Gottmik is kind of like caught off guard by it. But I'm like, if you look at what Angeria's strategy has been for cutting off, other than episode 1 where she cut off Roxy because she was the biggest threat, the 2 other people she has cut off are the 2 people that cut her off. And in her universe and in her French vanilla fantasy, that is the right move to make. So I absolutely understood her cutting off Gottmik. I think it might have been a little bit smarter for her to cut off Plastique. I got to be honest. Especially, well, I think either Plastique or Gottmik for next week's challenge specifically was the right choice to make.
Yeah. Well, I think Roxy could have been a good one too, based on
she wasn't going to cut off Roxy for a 3rd time. It was not going to happen.
Fair.
But it means that we are 7 episodes into the season, and 4 queens have not been cut off, which means officially there is at least 1 queen on this cast who will not get cut off this season.
Oh yeah.
Because there are only, presumably speaking, because I don't think they're going to cut someone off the episode before the finale.
Right.
I don't even know if they're going to cut someone off in episode 10.
I don't think so.
So I think we are only looking at 2 more cutoffs. So at least 2 queens are going to come out of this season not getting cut off. And I think I know exactly who those 2 queens are.
Vanjie and Chanel.
Absolutely. Because at this point, I don't see Vanjie or Chanel making it to top 3. Unless they pull a Shea Coulee final challenge is worth 3 badges situation. Which they probably still will. And they're going to hand fist whoever they want into the final 3.
Who's the 4th? So it's Vanjie, Chanel, Plastique, and who that hasn't been cut?
Nina.
Nina has been cut.
No.
She wasn't cut?
No. Gottmik, Roxy, and Angie have all been cut off twice. The other cutoff was Georges.
Okay, well, I just know there's been a lot of talk about cutting Nina, so maybe that's
no, Nina hasn't been cut
George
off.
just keeps bringing it up.
Yeah, George's was cut off. What was it? Episode 3.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember who that was by.
You got me.
Yeah, because she was cut off. She was cut off for the makeover.
Yep.
So wild. But David, do we have a draft update?
Yeah, things are very close in the draft. So we do have a kind of clear fourth person in our draft right now, and that's Brooke with 39.5 points. But the top 3 in our draft is divided by 1 point.
Oh, Jesus.
1 point. We're all within 1 point. So in third place is me with 42 points.
Okay.
Second place is Kamorian with 42.5 points.
Okay.
Which means, Logan, you're winning the draft with 43 points.
Come on, Angie. Angie's carrying me this whole season. Let's go.
Yep. You know what? I would be tied with you if Gottmik didn't get cut off this episode. That put me back in a point.
Yeah. I am excited for next week's challenge. I think it's going to be very fun. It's our second design challenge of the season. And we are designing looks based off of RuPaul's songs. Yeah,
and to be honest, I looked at episode titles for the rest of the season, and I'm like, we're not getting another design challenge. We're only going to have the one because the next episode is called Make Your Own Kind of Rusic. So there's no way that I thought that was going to be a design challenge.
Because remind me what the rest of the season looks like. Because I think it's open out there, so it's not like a spoiler.
Yeah, it's open.
Spoiler alert if you don't want to know the rest of the episode titles. Thanks for joining. But
so next week is Make Your Own Kind of Rusic, and then the week after is a Rusical.
Yay!
And the Rusical is Rosemary's Baby Shower. The Rusical.
Oh,
yeah!
I'm so excited,
and I love me some classic horror. So
me too. I love Rosemary's Baby is one of the few horror movies that I really, really enjoy. It's so good. Wow, that's so exciting. Okay.
And then episode 10, we're gonna get a lip sync Lollapalooza Smackdown.
Okay, great. I'm excited to see these girls lip sync. I think this is gonna be very fun. All right.
Episodes 11 and 12 are kind of tied together, so this is going to be interesting.
Okay.
So we have episode 11 is Grand Finale Variety Extravaganza Part 1. Oh. And the finale is the same thing, Grand Finale Variety Extravaganza Part 2.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. So I feel like that episode 11 is probably going to be a couple of badges. I feel like the Lip Sync Lollapalooza is probably going to be a couple badges too, don't you think?
It could be. Wouldn't surprise me.
It feels weird to do a Lip Sync Lollapalooza and then the prize is only one badge.
Maybe a badge per lip sync win you get.
Oh.
That could be a game changer.
So someone could get 3 badges. The winner of the challenge would get 3 badges.
That would not be good for our girl Plastique.
Oof, no. That I feel like would literally knock Plastique and Nina at the very least like out of contention.
Ooh, maybe.
Oof. And maybe even Chanel. Chanel's not a bad lip syncer, but we haven't seen her lip sync. She doesn't want a fucking badge. So, okay, I'm excited. This season is really, really entertaining me. I'm very thrilled, very excited. And we'll be back next week with a gaggle of people talking about a design challenge. So, thank you for joining. Let us know all your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, be kind. We're human. We are human just like you. So, make sure to subscribe, like, and share on the way out. Check out the description below for where you can find all of our other YouTube channel links, our audio podcast links, and our Patreon link as well for exclusive content and early access, including early access to the Look Over Here episodes for the remainder of this season, as well as Drag Race France and Drag Race Mexico. So you can also find the link to get your merch, including but not limited to cup mug down there as well. With that being said, we're going to get out of here. Cheers.
Cheers.
Woo! The way that Gottmik and RuPaul were laughing is the way I want to like laugh with my future like husband. Do you know what I mean? Like I want, that's the relationship I want.